So today I'm going to talk about the Ultragauge. So on the market, for getting more information about your engine management, you've got the scan gauge and Ultragauge. I went with that. I saw reports that it had a better interface, display, and so forth. So I've got the Ultragauge EM 1.4 Plus. I couldn't get the MX 1.4 for my vehicle. No reflection on Ultragauge. It's I have a Nissan Navara 2013, got the V9X Renault V6 3-litre turbocharged diesel. That was a mouthful. So there's some things it won't do on my vehicle, again because I'm a vehicle. I cannot get a transmission temperature reading through this gauge, which is a little disappointing. Not the gauge's fault, the vehicle. It doesn't provide that output through the OBD2 port. So what prompted me to get this was we did a recent road trip towing our caravan, and on that trip we had a whole heap of issues. We had a turbocharge leak that caused error codes, which meant that diminished the performance of the vehicle, and I wasn't able to clear those error codes, and that's what I can do with this gauge. And it's as simple as, and I'm not sure how easy this is to see, hit that. There's an up and down arrow on the back. Actually, I'll just zoom it around. There's a main menu button, up and down arrow. That's it, real simple. So like anything, it takes a little while to get your head around how it operates, same as my reticulation system at home. So I can just scroll down. You probably can't see the arrows moving down. Trouble codes, press that, clear, check engine, go to engine trouble codes, might make it clearer. Press the menus that are selected, and it goes TCs, trouble codes 0. So I know I haven't got any trouble codes at the moment. Woo! And I can check those and see if there's any pending codes. Anyway, let's get back. So I will scroll up. That'll take me to back. I think it did. Yep. Press menu to select and go back. Now, the gauge page menu. There's a whole heap of pages. There's a whole heap of other settings. I won't go into all the settings. I just wanted to show you and go through what I considered to be vital. So I'm just going to pick up my little bit of paper. This is the manual. I printed it off from page 17 to 63. I'm a printed paper sort of guy. That's just what I do. And it was just easier while I was sitting in the vehicle setting it up. I also then made up a page. Now I'll put this up, I'll take a photo of this and put this at the end of the video. And because I went through all the codes, I think there's something like 78 codes it reads. There's a number 44 in there, but yeah. So what I did is I broke it down into, because each page you can make to show certain gauges. So on each page you get to select whether you want to show 4, 6 or 8 gauges on each page, and you've got up to 7 pages. So I thought, well, hang on, I'll make each page about a particular subject. So my thinking, the way I'm wired, is I broke it down into vitals, you know, your engine, coolant temperature, oil temperature, intake air, yada yada. And then I thought another page called driving, so my boot turbo boost pressure, my mass airflow, throttle position, and so on. And then I thought consumption, that makes sense, you know, how much fuel am I using, instantaneous or on average, what's my fuel level. And then another page all about power, my turbo boost, the load, kilowatts, torque. And then another page called monitor. So it was a brilliant plan, absolutely brilliant. And I'll provide this because if you're wired the same, that can save you a lot of time. The problem I had is that half of these gauges my car does not provide through the OBD2 port. Really frustrating. So no reflection on Ultragauge, that's my vehicle. For all your main vehicles, your very common vehicles, your Hiluxes, Colorados, BT50 Mazda, so on, you can get the gauge, the MX14 gauge, and that is actually pre-programmed, because you can set alarms, so when it gets to a certain temperature or so forth, it'll actually, an alarm will go off. You can custom set them, but for those mainstream vehicles you can get the MX 1.4 and you can pay for it to be pre-programmed. For my vehicle, not so. You have to buy the EM Plus and you have to manually set it up, and that's actually not difficult, and I'm okay with that. having said that, I'm disappointed that the vehicle doesn't provide those outputs. Anyway, so that was my plan, but I've had to reset that. So I had originally I was going to be using 5 pages, and on each page showing that different gauges, the set of data. What I've ended up with is, if I just go into here, gauge page, my vehicle's running for 2 reasons. So the gauge works and the other one is bloody hot. So if I go here, select gauge, go select gauges and select gauges, and so you can see, well, you maybe not, there's 7 gauges, 7 pages listed there, and on each page I will show a gauge. So I'm going to select page 1, and on there, if you can see, there's a whole list, and if I use the up down arrow and go to next, and next, and that's scrolling through all of the different settings that are technically available, excepting my car doesn't provide some of that data. So what I've ended up with, it's very difficult to operate to see, I've still got the reflective cover on the gauge because I'm playing with it and I don't want to be smudging the screen. So the end result, if I go all the way back to my gauges, I won't go through the actual page setup. So I've only set up, I believe, 2 pages now with the core data. So if anybody wants me to go through the actual setup, give me a shout and I'll use a camera like overhead so that you can actually see this really clear. Just make a comment and I can run through that actual setup. It's not rocket science. You might think I'm silly making that offer. Go back. So my vehicle only provides the temperature for the water, the cooling system, not the oil. So I'm really disappointed about that. So I'm showing my engine coolant temperature, I'm showing my intake temperature, and at the moment, because I'm idling, that's actually crept up. So it's interesting because the intercooler will cool that down. And I'm showing my boost PSI and my MAP PSI, and I can't remember what MAP stands for. It's an acronym and it stands for something, mass air pressure. There you go. Now, you can also set this on auto scroll, so it scrolls from this page to the next page, to the next page, to the next page, and you can preset how long that scroll time is for. I think defaults 20 seconds. But I don't want it to scroll through, I want to manually do it, so I've turned off that function. So all I've got to do is press the down button, goes page 2, and then shows me the statistics on page 2, the gauges that I want to show. So for me, at the moment, I've got 17.4 horsepower. Yes, I know, I'm a metric man, but I still operate in horsepower. But interestingly enough, the torque I've got listed in Newton meters. And then we've got average litres per kilometre is 28.9. That's a wacky number, but look, I do have turbo boost leakage issues. So, and then my fuel level, which you can manually do, I've got a 140 litre tank, so I'm able to set in the vehicle setup settings. You set the power of the motor, the configuration of the motor, you can set the fuel tank. There's a lot of customization. It's actually very, very cool, and it doesn't take long to get your head around it. Anyway, I'm going to scroll back to my page 1, and basically that is it. So hopefully that adds value, hopefully it makes a difference, and like I said, if you want me to run through the setup at all, just make comments below and I'll do that. And I've got mine mounted just over here. The little mount is pretty cool, pretty easy. I had to modify an actual, if it go in really smoothly. Oh, there you go, well done. You can also get a bracket if you've got a handle here. You can use one of the bolt holes to come off that. So I've got it mounted right near my air vent, so it's not in the sun, and the gauge is kept cool. So it's Peter Butler, the hobbyist. Hope that helps and hope it makes a difference.